Okay, today is December 27, 2012. Up next, we need to take a look at something. First of all, I have this little cartoon that I thought was interesting. It says, "Dad, I'm considering a career in organized crime." His father says, "Government or private sector?" Now, you might think that's strange, but really, the truth of the matter is that the lines are becoming much more blurred between government and private crimes. We live in an evil society, and things are not as they seem. Today we're going to talk about this map. This is the Gotham City Map from the latest Batman release, The Dark Knight Rises. Now, there's other people that have been talking about this, and I want to give thanks to especially YouTube user named of MigFoxBot, The Dark Knight Map, New Madrid Fault, Parts 1 and 2. And he has laid out some interesting observations, and I'm going to lay out some observations of my own along similar lines, but as you'll also find that I've got some other ideas too about what this means. And this is going to be important because there is something coming soon that people are not aware of, something big, and it's not going to be an accident. It will be something done on purpose. Before we get into that, we need to realize that the entertainment industry has been using this medium to basically use psyops on the general public. Predictive programming. We have The Simpsons, 1997. We have Terminator, Caution, 9/11. And it's pretty obvious that the motion picture industry has been used to prepare us for the 9/11 event, which shows that they were also in on it, or at least certain people within that organization. The CIA works with Hollywood. This is something that a lot of people are not aware of, but it's true. And, you know, we have to realize that we are being played, and it's just a big game. And let me explain this to you. The reason that the ruling elite put all of these subtle clues in movies and other media is for psyops purposes, or predictive programming. When you see the actual fulfilling of their evil plans, they hope you will recognize it, believe it, and come to accept it the way they want you to see it. So there's a reason behind their madness. But there's another reason that a lot of people are not aware of. Another major reason that the ruling elite put all of these subtle clues in movies and other forms of media regarding their past and future plans is because they have a code that Yahweh, our Creator, requires them to follow. It is simple. Before they kill you, they have to warn you. And since we're talking about Batman, oh, do you remember this guy? The Riddler. And this is the whole thing. People don't understand that in order for them to do the things that they're doing to this earth, the evil things that they're doing to this earth, they have to give us riddles and clues. I mean, that's just the way they work. It's at the very foundation of what they're doing. You have to look at this in light of this. And when you do, you realize that William Shakespeare is exactly correct. All the world is a stage, and we are but players on that stage of life. Now, we're going to look more closely at the Gotham City map. As you know, recently in Connecticut, there was the shooting. 20 children, 6 adults, and of course the mother and the son were also killed. A total of 28 people who died because of this tragedy. And yet here, right here in the Gotham City map, we have Sandy Hook, which, as I've learned, was added and changed later from the original Batman movie. So Sandy Hook was not originally in this map, but it is now. It's listed as Strike Zone 1. Say that? Strike Zone 1. It even lines up to some extent to the Google Maps of that very area in Newtown, Connecticut. But there's something else here. We're going to show that later. But anyway, this is Sandy Hook. Now here, you'll see this blue line here is an interstate highway. And this is what the YouTube user I referred to previously was talking about. And here's a close-up of another section of that same area. Look at what it says right here. That says Interstate 35. Well, now, New York does not have Interstate 35. Why would they put Interstate 35 on this map? Well, it's a clue. It's a clue, and it's going to tell us something here, and I'm going to show you in a little bit. Now, here's another interstate full of strike zones. This is Strike Zone 5. And again, this is an interstate, and look at this right here. You can't see it very well, but it's 65. This is Interstate 65. These are staging areas. This is a checkpoint, according to the key at the bottom of the map. Staging areas, checkpoint, strike zone, and this, of course, is a river. It says Queens River here. Alright, let's go on down. There's a close-up showing Interstate 65 is right there, close to the strike zone. Now, here's a map. I'm showing the long stretch from the bottom, from strike zone 1 through 3 and then through 5. And this is a very interesting layout, because if you'll notice, and we can zoom in on these later, the roads here go into the river, but they disappear. It's like, why would the roads go into the river and then disappear? We also have boat tours here. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this represents something else. And I'm going to explain that to you in just a little bit. Now, if you'll notice, we have Strike Zone 1. We have the location of the Sandy Hook massacre. But Strike Zone 1 is... But Strike Zone 1 is actually in the water. Now, why didn't he put the Strike Zone 1 up here? Or down here? Or over here? Why is Strike Zone 1 here in the water? Well, it has a double meaning. Yes, this is the strike zone. This is representing Sandy Hook Elementary. But this is also a strike zone, and it is in the water. Right here in this river, right here. Another thing you should notice here is that Interstate 35 is quite long and quite extensive. Okay? And there's only one area, and there is a strike zone near it. There's only one area. Well, there's another area that's it's a checkpoint. This is a checkpoint, and there's a box inside of it. I'm not sure what that means. But here we're going to go on a little further. Again, we have Sandy Hook. And as you recall in the movie, this is the map, the exact same map. And in the next slide, you'll see that he's putting his finger right here on Sandy Hook. But remember, he's also putting his finger near this strike zone 1 area, which is at the bottom of the river, and we're going to see what that is in just a minute. Now here's the puzzle mystery that a lot of people are missing. There's another interstate listed on this map. This is Interstate 25, and you'll notice that it's right here at the top of Interstate 35. It connects with it, and there's no strike zone in this area. You'll see that there's an arrow that points back and forth, and I wondered about that. What does this arrow have to do with anything? Well, this arrow evidently is showing where people will be able to travel safely back and forth. I mean, that's what the purpose of a double arrow is, right? To show that we'd be able to travel back and forth. Back and forth where? Back and forth between Interstate 35 and 25. Well, as I said, we have arrow going both ways. The meaning of this is that between Interstate 25 and Interstate 35 we will have truck routes after the catastrophe that is to come, and that's what this map is about. It's a warning of what is to come. Now, let's take a look at this. Again, we have Interstate 65 with strike zone 5 at the top. We have a river going all the way down to strike zone 1. There's strike zone 3 in the middle. If this river represents the Mississippi River, therefore these strike zones would represent parts of the Mississippi River. This would be the upper near the Great Lakes. This would be the New Madrid area, or this would represent Louisiana, strike zone 1. Of course, we know what's happening now in Louisiana if you're keeping up with it, which most people are not, because the news media is not following this. They're not keeping up with it. But in strike zone 1, it's obvious that this is representing Louisiana, and in Louisiana we have the Assumption Parrish sinkhole in Bayou Corn, which has now grown to 8 acres, and at this time it is bubbling. There is gas and oil bubbling out the size of about an acre. So we're talking about a mega disaster in the process of happening right now in Louisiana. If you live in this area, folks, if you live in within 50 to 100 miles of Bayou Corn, I highly recommend that you leave that area very soon. I believe that it's going to explode. I believe that the sinkhole is going to get much larger, and it's going to be a disaster of apocalyptic portions. And what's going to lead to eventually is the eroding of the Louisiana salt. Shalom, friends.